Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think we have people from all across the world joining us today. Our WE3 session today is Leading Through the Unknown, Navigating Uncertainty. And I'm sure this is everyone on the call is feeling today in one way or another. Many of you are managing change at multiple levels in your organization. You're being asked to move faster, do more with less resources, adopt new technologies, and rethink processes. All of this while continuing to deliver reliable, affordable service to your communities. And while this is already demanding, the pace is only increasing. So to help highlight this, I want you to consider this, that 90% of the world's data was generated in the last 2 years, just the last 2 years. That seems hard to believe, but it shows the immense pressure leaders are facing. And that's exactly why this conversation matters today and why we have this lovely panel I'm about to introduce. Because in the middle of all that pressure and unpredictability, leadership is about guiding people through the unknown. So today I'm joined by a lovely group of remarkable leaders who are in the thick of it, and they're here to share real life advice on how they're navigating all of this, what's worked, what hasn't, and how they're helping their teams move forward through the unknown. So quickly, before I hand things off to the panel, just a quick housekeeping item. As you're on the LinkedIn meeting, if you have questions that you want to share for the panelists, if you will drop them into the chat, those will get over to the panelists and we'll try to answer them today or we'll follow up afterward. But without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to the panel and let them introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their role and how they got there today. And we'll start with Marissa Travaline from NJR.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon. Marissa Travaline from New Jersey Natural Gas, where I am the Vice President of Customer Service, Marketing, and Energy Efficiency. I have been in the natural gas industry specifically. I was thinking it was 22 years, but I think it's almost 21 years. I was doing the math before we went live. And have always been in capacities of, kind of public facing roles, very closely interacting with whether it was customers, media, government officials, but just all the stakeholders that, go into helping utilities operate.
Right.
I'm going to kick it off on my end. I'm Andrea Millard. I am the Director of Customer Service for Aquarion Water. I have been in the utility sector for 2.5 years, but prior to this, I was in the financial service industry for about 12 years. Customer service has always been a strong focus in my career and has been the core of the work that I do. And it has been definitely a great learning experience for me. And I'm going to pass it to Lori.
Hi, everyone. Lori Mueller. I lead technology for Pedernales Electric. You may hear me say PEC. My background has mostly been in technology and customer. I'm kind of, 4 years into utility. So I guess I'm older than Andrea, just by a little bit. But I thrive at that intersection of customer and technology, and more even the user experience. I love technology. So I've been doing that for, let's just say 20 plus years. I know we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to pass it to Kirsy.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's Kirsy Veloz. I am the Department Manager for Credit and Collections over at Con Ed of New York. Been with the company for a little over 19 years now. I have a background in quality and compliance, but my passion, like Andrea, is in customer service. Definitely that is my passion, and that's how I drive my team. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. So let's jump in. One of the biggest unknowns that leaders are navigating right now is jump back a question. Sorry. When you stepped into your current leadership role, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced and how did you approach them? And so we're all here in different leadership capacities. I'm going to pass it back to Andrea to get us started here and let us know what she has faced here and how she's handled it.
Yeah, so switching industry was definitely getting into the switching into the industry of the utility sector was definitely uncertain, right? You're coming into learning new regulations, learning new acquisitions, new systems, but also you are going into a new team. And for me, was coming into a team with a lot of experience. And that was such a great thing to have, right? People with over 25 years of experience. but it was important for me to be, as a leader, to be vulnerable, to let them know that we're all in this transition period. We're getting to know each other. I am here as a leader, right, wanting to learn what is the dynamic of the group, what is it that we do. And I think as you navigate uncertainty, switching industry, it's important to be transparent and have great communication, letting them know that you're into a partnership, right? You're building into a relationship. And then that you're not coming here to make changes right away, right? Because even though you're coming from another industry and you have experience, let's say on the customer service side, there's still much more that you can learn from them before you start making changes. So I think for me, that was the key components on coming into the industry, is being transparent, again, being vulnerable as a leader. I think that's important. And then letting them know that uncertainty is part of the journey. And I think if you share that with your team, they're going to be able to jump on your journey with you.
I'll jump in there. I would say probably stepping into my role, one of the biggest challenges that I faced was joining an organization that was already experiencing a lot of change. So it felt like I was part of the problem more so than the solution when I came in new. Utility industry can be long careers. There's a lot of people who've been in utilities for a very long time. So when you're a new kid on the block, it did help that I'd come from, within the industry. But certainly was joining an organization that I had not been part of previously. So as Andrea said, you listen and learn, which is a given, but also as a female leader, we do have to speak up, and we are used to taking charge and kind of, having visible roles. So to kind of blend back into the background a little bit and listen and observe a little bit more. Also for me, I think one of the things that was really specific to my journey was being able to start over. I had been in the same environment, the same company for 18, 19 years. So being able to step out of that and kind of start fresh again where I was. But remembering to, people always say kind of staying true to your core values. The other thing I would say is stay true to your core value. Um, I was brought for a reason into this organization, and I feel like there's a value that I bring, and there was something that specifically resonated about me to this organization. So remembering to bring that with me and not let that fall beside, and kind of come in and make the impact that that I thought I was brought on board to make. But again, always while listening and learning, and making sure that you're being receptive to the team that you're coming into.
Awesome. I can jump in next. So for me, it was a little differently. As I stated, I've been in the company for 19 years, but I did join this particular role that I'm in as the department manager for credit and collections during the pandemic. And that meant during a time where all of the activities, all of the credit and collections processes and activities were suspended, whether it was because of the state of emergency that we had at that time, or additional legislations that were issued in New York during that time. So we really weren't working under normal circumstances, but it really gave me, and I've heard listening from my peers, and I think that was key. Listening to what was going on, understanding, what was the challenge that we had in our hands, but and really looking into how do we move forward from here. But I think that gave me and my team the opportunity to really drive innovation, and we took the time to do things differently as we were resuming a lot of those processes and integrating new technology and innovation into the processes that we handled.
I can jump in next if you want. So I've been at PEC a year and a half. When I started, for those of you who don't know it, we're an electric distribution co-op in Central Texas. Started out, small rural co-op, but I don't know if you guys know, everybody's moving to Texas. So we wouldn't normally grow, but they are experiencing rapid growth and fast. So when I started, they were already kind of at the tail end of almost standing up their own transmission operation on the top of this incredible growth. And also the technology team, right? all the AI train coming our way. And then also to pile on, they had a couple of different leaders before me in rapid succession. So trust was really low. They were, change fatigue was a thing. They were looking at the mountain of tech debt because everything stops when you're doing a big initiative like transmission. So the first thing I did is, like I always do in any organization that is experiencing such massive change, is communicate. I had to earn trust in order to even get them to open up, because they're just thinking, what's going to hit it next? What changes this new leader coming in? What are they going to do? Just pile on. So I think the first thing is just getting to know where they're at and making an assessment, and then bringing them along, painting that vision for them. We had really honest conversations about, okay, here's where we are. Here's where everything's going. These are customer expectations. These are our business line customer expectations on, they want these modern experiences. Here's, basically the utility industry as a whole being a little bit behind on tech because we're naturally risk averse, right? We don't want to be on the bleeding edge, but we also don't want to be on the lagging edge. There's just as much or maybe more risk there. But I feel like we've been back here a little bit. So really talking to them about where we're going and why, and really bringing them along was really important. The other thing is, I realized they had so much. Now, hopefully not everybody has all of that, but they had so much change and the trust was so low. We actually we did some speed of trust training with them to really kind of kick us off. And we're still on our journey and working through that. But I think we're in a much better place. We're all aligned. We're moving toward that new direction and really becoming that more mature organization that our growth is requiring of us. So it's been fun, and I think it's going to continue to be fun. But that's how I approach it, at least initially. It's all about trust.
I think we all share that. I think we all have a smile on our faces as we share, some of the challenges that we have throughout this process, but we have created opportunities in this as well. And I think one of the challenges I think that we all face on the utility sector as well is that we're very lean. We're lean organizations. So when a new leader comes in, there's definitely that pressure on the team, like what else is going to come on our plate, right? And try to help them navigate and say, no, I'm not adding more. I'm going to help you and see how we can leverage technology, right? And I think that's a piece. How can we leverage technology so these reports can do this while you focus on something else? But I think that's a piece too that brings uncertainty, is that we're very lean.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick, I'm going to turn this to a question slightly on the other side of the topic. But if there are people listening who are considering leadership or maybe newer in their journey, and this is something that causes a real sense of trepidation that, hey, I've got to go. I have to not only step into a new team, maybe step into a new industry. What advice would you give them in terms of how to seek mentorship or support or anything as they're starting out on that journey, facing these obstacles?
I would offer in there that I think one of the things I've always said is try not to rush that experience. I think the things you pick up along the way, I always say it's building your toolbox out and make sure you have all the tools you need in order to step into a leadership role. And if you know, for good leaders, there's always going to be room. I think sometimes people get this sense that, well, I have to hurry up and get there, or there's only so many spaces. And I think, particularly so for women a lot of times, but gather every tool you can on the way. Raise your hand for every opportunity you can, every experience you can, because if you get to the leadership role and then start looking for that mentor, you're probably going to be a little bit late. I think it's important that you kind of start early. So this is probably not the best answer to your question. Someone might have a better one, but if you even have designs on leadership and evolving into a leadership role, start taking advantage of the opportunity to build out your toolbox now so that you have all the things you need, or you have more of the things you need when you get there, would be my advice. And again, I think that comes from raising your hand for experiences, for working groups, for teams, joining those mentorship circles now, getting involved in outside boards and outside activities and things that expand your perspective a little bit, because there's a ton of value in that too. So just my kind of food for thought.
I would agree with that. I tell everybody, start leading from where you are. You don't have to manage people to be a leader. So take the lead on a project or something. Help, act as if you're already there. And I think that's, people will find you. Mentors will find you and pull you out.
I think my advice will be have growth mindset, right? It's you don't know it yet, but you're in that journey to know and be able to support the team or be able to provide your expertise. So I think when you're switching industries, sometimes I will say that people were coming with a fire hose in my face with lots of information, and you're like, I want to know everything. And it's okay to not know everything, and that you're going to get there. But I agree with Lori and with Marissa. It's important to have a mentor, is somebody that can help you set the expectations too, because sometimes we want to go too fast. And it's okay for us to take our time. We're going to get there.
And I think connected to that is like being intentional about these things that you do, to find a mentor, to connecting with people. And I would say, learning from people at all levels, especially in the utility world, right? We are very people driven organizations, and learning from people at all level and connecting with people at all level really setting up that foundation to help you in the future with, when you come across these challenges. The people are the ones that are going to be helping you get out of there. You're definitely leading them, and that's where the mentorship comes into place. But to carry that forward, you really need that connection with the people and making them be part of that process.
And we're going to continue on with the team and the workforce portion, but one of the biggest unknowns that leaders are navigating right now is the changing makeup of the workforce. And two quick statistics that I think are pretty stark. 40% of core skills required for workers will change by 2027. And then 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2027 due to automation and tech advancement. So I'll ask the group, how have these generational shifts added complexity or changed the way you lead? And how is that going to continue, obviously, to impact things? Marissa, do you want to kick us off with this?
Yeah, sure. I think, I guess what I say is, so as you advance in an organization and you develop a larger team, I find that the best thing I can do sometimes is to rely on the people that I have, chosen to kind of be part of that leadership journey, to make good choices, to evaluate talent, to build strong teams. And I think if you're, maybe I'm a bit of a skeptic. I know that the skills are going to change, but people are still people. And I think if you take some consistency in your approach to people, and you sort of not to be cliche, but meet them where they are and understand what drives them and what motivates them, that's going to be how you connect to them. That's going to be how you get them to accept change. That's going to be how you motivate them. And those are the things, to me, a willingness to accept change and that motivation are the things that allow people to adapt to that changing skill set, to changes in their work or their role. But if you empower and equip your leaders, right, everybody in your organization, and you respect what they bring to the organization, and you I would say use them for that talent, but you let them exercise that talent and that expertise and that contribution. That, to me, that's the best thing you can do to be prepared for the future and to navigate that, you know, whether it's a generational shift or a skill set shift.
And I would add to what Marissa said, that right, our workforce is changing, right, but our customers too, right? It's the workforce that is changing, is also the customers we're going to be serving when it comes to that generational shift. So I think taking their talent, and again, innovations that they come up with and things that we can do differently in the future is going to better serve those customers that are also changing in the future. So I think there's also a benefit to it as well, in leading with these changes and the change of workforce. So I think the generational shift, it does add complexity for sure, but we're good at those things, and this is when we thrive and when we're able to add the technology, the innovation that we can bring to the workforce and better serve the customers of right now and also those customers of the future.
when it comes to generational too, it's like there's so much knowledge that people that have been in the company for so long carry with them, right? And now we're looking also at making it more attractive for young generations to come into the utility sector. So how you partner up those two and allow that person to share the knowledge that they have in the industry that they have been able to gain, not because they went to school, but it's something because they learned throughout the years, and now bringing somebody new that is fresh out of college, that they're so eager to use technology, right? So how you merge those two, I think, is very important, and making them both that they're important regardless of the generation. Guys are both important. So I think it's something that the workforce is going to continue. It's a challenge that we're going to continue to face, right? It's going to continue to change because right now, also the new generations are not the ones that are going to come in and stay at a company for 25 years, right? What they're looking for is changing. So, how can you make it more attractive for them also to stay, right? How can you retain that talent or give them the tools that they need in order for them to grow somewhere else? So, I think it's something that we have to continue to adapt as we go along with the generations that we're working.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency to think, okay, well, if you've had somebody that's been in a company for a long time, maybe they're stuck in their ways or whatever, and you think you need some fresh eyes or fresh talent. There's probably a balance to that, but right now, the way everything's going, if you're building a learning organization, you need that wisdom, and you also need the energy that probably comes from somebody that has a lot of ambition trying to prove themselves right. But nobody knows this. Nobody knows the AI. Nobody knows where we're headed. Anybody that says they're an expert in AI, I have to question. And there's probably a few, but it's new to everyone. So if you have a learning organization, your existing employees are learners. If they're learners, they're on equal footing with people coming in the door. The only thing that's different is the patterns. The younger generation, they've grown up with the flexibility and even the uncertainty. The older generation grew up with more, structure and certainty, and this is the way we do things. So it's really just a matter of breaking those patterns and pulling them together, because really they're on equal footing. And some of my team are like, I would beg them, don't retire. I don't have enough people in place yet. I try to talk them out of it, but it usually doesn't work. I'm like, wouldn't you rather stay here and have fun with us? That's the environment we want to create. We don't want them to leave.
And Lori, I think if we owe people, regardless of where they are in their career, we have to help them build the tools to have honest conversations, to be, sort of direct in what they need from one another, as well as what they can offer one another. And I think, we talk a lot in our industry about that next generation coming in, and they're not the only ones that require certain special handling, or us, to approach them a little bit differently, because you can all across the extremes, or the, I don't want to say the divides, but just sort of each group, it's if we just give everybody the tools to interact a little bit better, and to be a little more transparent in how they're going to communicate with one another. And that's not going to work for everybody. I mean, I get that, but we owe it to every group in our organization to arm them to have the right kinds of conversations, to give and receive feedback, to approach things, to approach change, to manage change. It's not focusing on just one group to do that. It's kind of integrating them.
Yes, I think the most important thing we do as leaders is create the environment for success so people can thrive. We have to give them the tools. We have to remove the roadblocks. We have to put them together. And the key thing is identifying quickly. And I think, especially women tend to be more, empathy is more natural to them. Maybe I think there's not a lot of differences, but when it comes to gender differences, we have babies. There's a tendency, we pick up on some things faster than others. Use that to your advantage because you will spot the fear faster. If you can spot the fear, you can help bridge the gap, whether it's somebody fearful that, they don't know what the new folks coming in know, or the new folks coming in think, I don't know what the people that have been here a long time know. You can point that out and you can bring them together, and then it's more collaborative, and you don't really see that generational gap. What you see is people learning together and growing together. So environment to me is the number one thing. And that's why We spent time, we brought in, we did some trust sessions because I don't know, I don't remember who said it, but culture eats strategy for lunch. It's true, or dinner. I don't know what it is, but
So I didn't know if you were going to say something, Andrea, but I'm just kind of piggybacking. I think you just took us there. We were talking somewhat on the skills side of that, so with the workforce. But if we look at to just the change in culture, right? We were prior to starting today, we were talking about pre-COVID and how it doesn't really exist, right? And we went from that world to a COVID world to wherever we think we are today. And the culture of the different groups that we have working with us today and how that's impacted what it looks like and how you think that there are shifts moving forward and how that'll be managed.
So I think that is something I think we're all facing too, like, the hybrid world that we're living in. I'm somebody that finds that balance in between. I think you still need that culture of interaction, that people need to see each other. You need to see the emotions. You need to be able to feed from one another, right? And as that generational shifts and changes, I think you need to have both. You need to have that interaction in person in order for you to build your culture, because a lot of cultures were destroyed during COVID, right? And it was not on purpose, it was just the distance, right? Even though you're communicating through Teams, you're having Zoom calls, it's not the same thing as to having a face-to-face conversation. And sometimes you get to learn more from one another, right? As we say, and everybody's different, everybody learns different. Some people don't learn through Teams. They need somebody sitting next to them and be able to provide that information over to them. So I think culture is important in any organization. And we have to be mindful of how that is shifting with the strategies that you're building in place for the company.
If I can add to that too, I would say I come back to find out what motivates people. And I think, Lori hit on something where use your instincts, use, the connections you can build with people to figure out what motivates them. I worked in places where leadership at sometimes felt that, okay, well, people are too focused on titles. Titles don't matter. They matter a lot to some people, and that's okay. And if that's what matters to people, find a way to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve. Flexibility may matter more to some people. So, find a way to get them, to what meets your needs, but also meets the business's needs. Compensation, right? Maybe that rules all for some people, and they'll deal with all the rest of it because that, is what motivates them. Um, I don't think we should dictate what motivates folks. I think it's our job as leaders to build teams where you can adapt and adjust to what motivates people. And that's challenging at times, but it's also, I think, the most effective way um, to get, to get folks to have to come along with you. I've kind of had that written down in front of me but if you can bring people along with you on the journey, the thing that stays constant is you and their trust in you as a leader. And so no matter what's coming at them, they're gonna be with you because they're gonna believe that you have their back, they'll have your back. So if you can find out what motivates folks and you can use that, to bring them along with you, to me, I think that's incumbent upon us. I think that's what we're in these seats to be doing.
Yeah, I think you have to be intentional whenever it's harder when you have a fully remote team. We happen to be hybrid, which I really like. It's 2 days a week. Because I think, whether you're of the generation, you want the flexibility, you love work from home, or you're used to coming in the office every day and that's what you want to do. People are social. We're social creatures. We're humans. You need some of that. Now you can orchestrate that remotely. You just have to be more intentional about it because you want your team to feel like they're part of the team. And if they're always in their own world, they can easily feel disconnected. So as leaders, I think we have to work a little harder to do that. But it's important to focus on that. Either, scheduling certain things just for connection, or certain teams who maybe need more collaboration because they're working on a project. You may need to create space for them.
And I think that that's the key. And I think we've been saying probably the same thing, but just to reemphasize it, because I think that's what's important is creating that space, right? We have that responsibility to ensuring that we have the space where people can feel motivated, right? We can find what are those different things that motivate people, but creating their environment where people are motivated and people feel included, they feel connected. I think that's our responsibility as leaders, and that's what's going to make them thrive. So again, like that culture, that environment, it's really key in making sure that we create that environment for them, whether it is remote or in the office. I think there's a benefit to both, but we can create those environments. It's definitely challenging one way more than the other, but we can still do it. And being creative and innovative when it comes to those, creating that culture and that environment for the employees.
All right, we're gonna switch tracks and talk about the other side of your priority. So your utility customers, and as you mentioned earlier, Chris, they've changed too. They expect more, they expect it faster. They are going through the same generational shifts that we just talked about with the workforce. So how are the evolving customer demands adding to the uncertainty that you're managing? And we'll go back to you, Kirsy, to start.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret. Customer expectations are certainly evolving every day. And as a utility, it's very strange because we are being compared to other type of businesses, right? Such as Amazon, Apple, and other businesses, which I would say historically wasn't really how we were compared. We were used to being compared utility to utility, right? But and customers have the right. So their demands have definitely increased when it comes to reliability, the products that we offer. We as utility also have additional goals, right? Clean energy goals. And of course, most importantly, affordability. So being able to provide all of this and also staying affordable is really in the forefront of everyone. So, providing customers, I would say, with more personalized services is something that they're looking for. Services that are tailored, to their needs. This shift really, for us, the challenge is how do we find out, right, what it is that customers want and how do we implement that? So it's really looking into data analytics, understanding, what the customer needs and what is it that they want, and having the technology to be able to provide that, such as, relationship management systems, right? Being able to see that 360 view of the customer, and also leveraging, of course, over other tools so that we can gain deeper insights into the customer, not only what they want, but also the customer behaviors, right, and their preferences. So I think it's a lot of customization, right, enhancing that customer experience. Definitely a lot of uncertainty, but I think it is our responsibility, again, to be able to look for these opportunities. How do we make things easier for customer? And again, technology helps us a lot with that. But also, our employees, being able to ensure that our employees are thinking the same way, right? What do our customers want? I mentioned data. I mean, we have dashboards that informed us of so many different things, but being able to interpret that to say, okay, here is that customer behavior and here is the preferences. How can we meet them there? So definitely a lot of uncertainty. I know we probably talk about AI, and I know we've mentioned it a couple of times, but that's going to be, it's still a challenge, again, for utilities. But I do think they do present a lot of opportunities, a lot of challenges, but a lot of opportunities for us in serving our customers.
On the customer service side, I always say, what do you want as a customer? Like, put yourself as a customer yourself and what your expectations are. And when you're working in the utility sector, one of the biggest challenges that we have is that when you purchase a home and you're moving into that service territory, that is the service provider that you will receive. It's not that you can say, oh, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to pick this, right? So our responsibility and our level of service is so much higher, right? We talk about also the different age groups that you're servicing. There's people that are older that they will prefer and call and speak to somebody. There's somebody younger that they will rather just talk to somebody through a chat or send an email. They don't want to speak to somebody on the phone. So all of those things, it's not going to be something that is going to fit for every customer, but you have to be mindful of all the customers that you're serving. So just like we're talking about employees, if the same thing comes to customers. So for us, it's important to make sure that we're communicating with these customers and that we are transparent. I think they just want people to be honest. If you can't solve their problem right now, allow them to know that you're going to follow up with them, that you're going to be able to close the loop, because there's a lot of times that we might not have the answer right away. But if you close the loop, it's important. As Kirsy was saying, there's a lot of data. We do a lot of surveys. Gravitate to that information, dig into it. It's going to give you a lot of tools that you will be able to implement. And sometimes are just little tweaks that you have to make. It's not this full production of things that you will have to change. But I always say, just remind yourself that you're a customer too, and what your expectations are if somebody was providing you a service.
I can jump in there too. I think I can piggyback on what you said. You know, whenever you find yourself a little bit uncertain about a decision or a direction, you can just ask your customers, because they're going to tell you. I've never met a shy customer when you ask them, you know, what they want out of your business. So you know, we have a lot of options available to us. We have not only do we have internal data, but we have vendors, right, who are helping us understand technology. Great vendors like SEW helping us understand, you know, the technology that's available, what our peers are doing. We have industry groups that we can connect with. We have peers we can connect with in peer groups. We have benchmarking data from, you know, the bigger organizations. But at the end of the day, I tend to go back to my customers because, and I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. We're, you know, New Jersey Natural Gas is a one state jurisdiction, 586,000 customer utility. So I think it's manageable to say that I'll look at my customer data, because what I come back to is, you know, the expectations may be changing, but look at an Amazon or a Google. If you compare yourself to Amazon, think about the Amazon experience. The Amazon experience is built to never interact with you at all. At the end of the day, you pick up your phone, you put your order in, you know, you don't want to communicate with anybody. You just want to get your item. And in some cases, you're having it sent to a lockbox or a pickup box because you don't even want to interact with the delivery person who's going to drop it off to you. How many of your customers, when you ask from a utility perspective, is that the experience they're looking for, right? I want a non-person. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to interact with anyone. That's not what my customers are telling me. Now, it could be what, you know, Lori's or Andrea's or Kirsty's are telling them. You can't just make assumptions about what your customers want, but they are more than willing to tell you. So I always come back to, what are they saying? We have post-transactional surveys. We have annual surveys. We should prioritize that against all of the other sources that we use, and we should make decisions and we should serve our customers that way. Balanced, by the way, with, you know, the regulatory requirements that we, you know, have as utilities, or you know, the expectations of our public utility commissions, of our elected leaders. You know, you have to balance all of those things, but that customer voice has to come first, in my opinion.
And I would say, Marissa, it's not to what you're saying, right? That there's customers just like people, right? They're motivated by different things. So they want different things. So it's having different options, right? You have the customers who doesn't want to talk to anyone. So you want to make sure that you have those self-service options for those customers and that they are the best experience that they can get. But for those who still, you know, want to call the call center, you also want to equip the call center so that they're able to assist those customers. So it's really, I would say, a combination of things in order to, again, give the customers what they want, whatever channel they prefer to use to interact with us.
I was going to say, yeah, one of the things I learned leading on the customer side too is often, you know, customers, they want self-service if it's easy. If it's something easy and fast, they don't want to have to get on the phone and hold or talk to somebody. They just want to do it. But if it's complex, they want to talk to somebody. So it's almost situational. I think being thoughtful about those journeys is going to be important, because I know we're going to talk about AI in a minute, but there's a lot of fear around AI, especially probably for your agents even, and customers. But that when you're thoughtful about it and how you do it, you're going to see it's really just a shift because what you want your agents doing probably most of the time is those complex conversations.
Yeah, and so like quick show of hands among our group, how many of your utilities still have a one or more walk-in customer service centers, right? Because I mean, I think people probably don't even realize that's still a thing. People will
Yeah.
show up every month to pay their bill in person. They want that receipt. There's a level of trust. Maybe they've had their fraud, enacted against their bank accounts or their credit cards or things like that. Or, I walk in with my bill and I go, I just don't understand can you help me figure this out? I mean, people are always amazed when I tell them that, we have as many as 4, 5, 6, depending on the size of the utility in New Jersey, and they are still well visited, and they're going to probably remain for a while here, because our leaders know that that's something that people want. So it's absolutely
Well,
right. It depends. You got to tailor it to the expectation and to the situation.
yeah. And there is another challenge our customers are facing that's getting worse with technology, and that's the scams. So there is a lot of stuff that we probably need to do that we've never had to do before to teach and educate our customers, whenever they get something from that looks like it's from us, how to know whether it is from us or not. If we're calling, how they know it's really us. So using technology to help do that, but also lots of communication. But that's also new for our customers and something that we'll have to deal with because there's reputational risk for us because they think it's us, even if it's not, when they get defrauded. So technology can help there, but it also, on the flip side, is part of the cause of the problem because all this cool technology is available to bad actors too.
Continues that theme of the unknown and uncertainty and fear that can be with this change. I'll say it's interesting as well. I have my work world, which is surrounded in the utility industry, and then what I'd say real world, where I live very far out in the country. And it's interesting when I would talk to people out here what they know about their utility provider, and it's very little. I just pay my bill. I don't think about it. Well, even now here the conversations are changing, whether it's around electric vehicles or other things that are impacting their bills. So I think just those societal shifts and changes we're gonna make this a much bigger impact in the coming years too, of the conversations that have to happen and the way that communication happens with customers.
Yeah, and the stress on the grid. I mean, with technology, that's gonna continue because all that AI runs in very large data centers that are powered by some kind of fuel.
And Aaron, I think you make a great point. For a lot of our careers, if you've been in this industry for a while, that's how we wanted it. We almost
Right.
didn't want you to have to think about us. It was you flip the light on or you turn the heat up and it just happens. And I think as we're regulated utility industries, I know sometimes Texas can be a little bit different in particular, but in states like New Jersey, we have regulated franchise service territory. So your provider is your provider. But there are so many emerging technologies and choices that our customers can make that it's only underscored the customer experience and how important that is. But again, also just responding to and adapting to customers' needs because they didn't pay attention or didn't need to pay attention to us before, but they really are now, and they're willing to let us know when they like what we're doing, when they don't like what we're doing. So it's interesting you make that point because we talk about that a lot, how we used to kind of just stay under the radar. We're here if you need us, but otherwise just trust that everything is okay. No, that now it's trust but verify.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, we'll shift over, as Lori said, to talk about AI. I was thinking back through trends in the utility industry. And so if we look at internet 90s, somewhat of a slow climb, and then cloud 2000s, right? It was started in apprehension that went slow, but we look at AI and it's instantaneous overnight. Hey, here's a tool, go figure out how to use it. And to your point about experts, it's interesting. There may be experts, but I don't think there's an expert on the application of it. So that as it evolves, that's where the challenge is. So we'll dive into that with AI and the new technologies. What are you guys doing? How are you managing that? The technology side, the team side, all the things that come with that. Lori, I'll let you start.
Kick us off. AI is very exciting. Everybody's very excited about it, and they're also very afraid of it, very scared of it. You have your executives that are worried about it, because especially in the utility industry, any industry, especially ones that are highly regulated, there's still a lot of uncertainty and unknowns about that. That isn't, it's not new, but it is kind of new, and it's coming at us like a freight train. It's maturing quickly. So I was just kind of watching that for a little while. I want to make sure that the team is paying attention, though. I don't know if you guys use ChatGPT or something like that personally, but for a while in the beginning, I was like, it's catching on. You had your early adopters and they were all singing its praises and all that. But now it's kind of getting to everybody, and everybody's asking for it. And we're putting the brakes on them because we want to do it securely and do it well. But it's something that they're going to demand of us, just like anything else. But this is one that is maturing fast, and it's moving so fast that it's easy for teams to get overwhelmed. Not just the business teams, but the technology teams, because they're struggling to keep up. So I am starting to work with them to, like, everybody should be using it. I don't know if you guys have heard, the Stoic saying, I think the obstacle is the way. If we're resistant and afraid of this, then I mean it's going to win anyway. But if you embrace it, then you get to shape it. You get to chart the path forward. If you don't, then you're going to be run over by it. So to me, the best thing to do is for everyone to embrace it, name it, start learning it, get used to it, and see its limitations. There are a ton of limitations, but there are a ton of possibilities too. So I've been talking to my team about that, getting them, familiar with it, telling them to use it, because when you use it, you'll see where the flaws are. It's very cool. It saves a ton of time, and there are lots of opportunity. And I think people are lighting up to see that and getting excited about it. But they're embracing it. We need them to help drive it. We need the teams to help drive it, see what it is and what it's not, so they won't be afraid of it. If you think about people being fearful about their jobs, you have people on both sides saying, yes, it's going to change the workforce, it's going to reduce jobs, blah, blah, blah. In some cases, maybe yes, just like any other major shift in technology. But it's really probably just going to be a shift in the skill set. Because if you look at the macro picture, we've got a declining birth population across the world. We got a lot of boomers that are going to be retiring. There's going to be a shortage of labor. We need technology to help. So figuring out how you navigate that now and getting them comfortable with the idea that their role and their job may shift, but it's not necessarily going to be a one-to-one. Some jobs, especially if they're just being completely transparent, if they're just data entry or something very simple, those will go away. So now you want your team to start thinking about how they move into that next step, because everybody's going to be in technology in the future. You're all going to be AI type managers. It's going to be human augmentation. You're going to have an AI buddy that you're going to be partnering with to collaborate, to test your theories, but you have to provide the creativity in the engine. There's a lot that ChatGPT can do for you, and I know you guys probably have all tried it. If you have not, you absolutely should, because the obstacle is the way. But you will find that it feels very creative, but it really is just a next word prediction engine. You have to know what questions to ask. And just like anything in leadership, any other situation, it's the art is in the question, asking the right questions. We'll have to teach our teams how to ask the right questions, because that's how you guide it. You can get a completely different answer based on the question you ask and how you navigate that. So there's learning how to prompt, which is basically asking the right questions, is going to be a new skill set we've got to teach our folks. The other thing, critical reasoning, because it's not that reliable. It's just it's making predictions. People can't rely on it. To me, that's the biggest risk. You rely on it, and then that gets you in trouble, because you need to check. It could hallucinate. That's getting better, but you still always have to have that critical thinking about what's being produced by this tool. And to me, that's what it is. It's a tool. So getting people comfortable with it, having them try it out, not be afraid of it, addressing that elephant in the room. Just get it in a room and just talk about it. Because if you can figure out where the fear is, you can get them comfortable with it. If they're resistant because they think, well, it's taking my job, they might be really excited about what it could do for them, but they'll never get there. So you have to address their concern right up front and transparently. And then the other thing I've noticed is anytime, listen for your teams to use those all or none. I call it all or none thinking. There's no jobs. They're just going to take all the jobs it's going to do, or nobody's doing this. Or if you hear that, that should be a red flag to ask more. Say, tell me more. Tell me more. And is that right? Because it's probably not. When you force them to think about it, well, not everyone. Well, it's not, I guess it's not going to eliminate. I guess it can't do this. They'll work themselves back into reality, and you can dissipate the fear and then get them really thinking about how they help you move things forward. So that's some of the things that have worked for me. And we're going through that right now. I mean, even for utilities, going to the cloud is scary. We're still working on that. we still have on-prem data centers. So, and we probably always will. And we're watching too. The other thing is balance, things pendulum swings this way, but things are a lot easier if they can be in the cloud, because we can be much faster and more innovative, and also get away from being tied to certain, monolithic systems. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And once you introduce it and they kind of get a taste of it and realize, oh, wait, I can control this. It's just a different way to do it. You usually see some excitement and a lot of innovation in your team. The human curiosity kind of wakes up and takes over.
Lori, I would add one thing that I always think of and I focus on with my team too is articulate the need first. Sometimes, I hear people say, oh, we need chatbots. And I always react. I'm like, okay, what do you need them for? What are you going to do with them? What's the application here? And so I always say, like, you can sometimes find the solution before you find the problem. And right, that's part of being innovative and proactive. But what is the true need, that the organization has or that the customer has? And then I think, now bring your technology partners, bring your vendor partners to the table to help address that need, or even, flesh it out further for you. But I always hate to start from just the tool. And actually, I shouldn't say that. I know that's the wrong approach too. Sometimes you should figure out how to use a tool when there's that much value. But I try to have my team focus on articulate the need. What are you trying to solve? What problem are you trying to solve with that tool too?
No, I think you're 100% spot on. And coming from somebody who's leading technology, I get those requests all day long. We want this, we want that. I'm like, wait, but why? No, 100%. I've realigned the technology team around the business, and we're forcing them to get clear on the problem we're trying to solve, because it is really easy to get enamored with cool technology. And then you end up spending a lot of time and maybe money.
Yeah, it's
that
very
you maybe
expensive
didn't
when you
need to
get enamored with the
spend.
technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be expensive. And so those are trade-offs you have to make, and you have to make them in partnership. So I guess my other advice is, if you're on the business side, make really good friends with your technology partner, because you are going to be in this future together. And because you can't have one without the other. I hear a lot of people saying, well, we don't want to automate bad process. So they'll send the business off to improve the process first. That doesn't work, because they can't figure out or improve a new process without knowing what technology is available to them. They'll come back and bring you a new process, and the technology team gets it, but it's already after they've, gone down the road and bought something. And they're like, well, we could have skipped these 3 steps for you if we would have done it this way. So have to be at the table together. I think that's really important. So that's what I'm trying to do at PEC, is really get that partnership solid, and the technology team are aligned to business outcomes. They're no longer in the silo where they only have, their goals. It's their goals match the business's goals. So that way it pulls us together.
I really like what you said, Lori, that is to expose the team to the technology, right? Because fear comes from them not knowing how it works, right? Now, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my job and this is going to happen, right? So they're part of also of the beginning of something new. So if you're bringing that on, they're part of that because they're learning about it. And they said that when we are in fear, we don't make good decisions. We're scared to be creative, right? That gets removed from it because you're in that fear stage. So it blinds you. So I really like what you said, expose the team to it so they can understand it better.
Yes.
I think, do we want to maybe shift gears and get to a couple of the questions? I think we're on until 2, so there's a lot coming in, which is awesome to see. I'm going to jump in on one of them that I think I'm better suited to answer than some of the other ones, which was someone asked, what is one mindset shift you had to make that completely changed how you lead? And I guess this will be a little view into me and maybe a little vulnerability and weakness, but there's room for more than one boss. I think for me, it was, um, I was a competitive leader, I guess, for a lot of my career, maybe the earliest parts. I'm ashamed to say probably longer than it should have been, but um, there is room for broader and bigger thinking and supportive thinking and collaborative thinking. And I think I was always so focused on trying to demonstrate, that I was able to lead, that I forgot to partner a little better and a little more along the way. And I think once I made that shift to realize that there was room, and again, I hate to always bring it, and I don't intend to bring it back just to the women factor, because I think there's also, there's probably hopefully some men listening in too, but particularly as a woman, it was like, well, there's only room for a couple of us, at the top. For so long, that's sort of how it felt. But I wish I had been a better partner and learned to partner a little bit sooner. And for me, I would say the sooner you can do that and build out that network of folks that you support and that support you, you have a different approach to leadership and a better outcome. And maybe if somebody wants to grab other ones too, we want to try to hit as many of them. I don't know.
Yeah, here's another question. So what advice do you have for younger women who want to lead differently, but are still finding their voice in the room?
I like that question when I saw it, because I think that we, as women, we have to do those self-evaluations of who we want to be. And I think it's important for that person to find what type of leader they want to be first, right? You got to be you. You cannot be somebody else. I think it's those evaluations, who you want to be first, do that, and then the room that you're in is going to allow you to be the person that you want to be, right? And if you want to be somebody that motivates, then what is it that you have to do to get to know that team to motivate them, right? So I think it's finding who you want to be first. I think that self-evaluation is important.
And if that room doesn't allow you to be who you want to be, find a new room. That's my other piece of advice. I was a self-proclaimed, I'm a boss. I was a bossy girl when I was younger. And um, don't hide your voice, don't hide your voice to get where you want to go. You'll find a room that wants to hear your voice. And if you're not in it, give it some time and be patient and learn. But otherwise, if you're not feeling it, then find a new room.
Yeah, I think focus on what you want, focus on your goals and ignore other people as long as you're making headway. If it's a negative, if you're more of an introvert, I would say you do have to practice speaking up. Practice speaking up in smaller groups first because it's easier. There's less, think about where you are, on the fear scale. Just practice that. Practice commenting on something in a small team meeting, and your voice will naturally, you'll get louder and you'll get better, and also then people will start listening to you. And then ask for support. Especially, sometimes I see women are harder on other women. If you're in a room with somebody else and you see, especially a more junior leader or even a junior just employee that's a female, maybe quiet, ask them what they think. Give them a little space. And definitely don't be harder on each other. That's all. But yeah, I think that's just a matter of just, I like people to focus on their goals and yeah, if you're not being heard at all, it's time to find a new room.
And the only other, I'll give you one more to your point if you feel like you're a little quieter, people say, oh, your work will speak for itself. No, it won't.
No,
Speak for your work. Set up time with your boss directly in a one-on-one. Say, can I have 30 minutes? I want to walk you through some of the things I've done or some changes I've made. Highlight your successes very clearly, directly, concisely. Hand that off to your boss and let them be your champion. If you don't have a boss that's willing to do that for you or a superior that's willing to do that for you, find someone that you can say, hey, I want to walk you through some of these changes that impact your business. Because if you do that, your name will come up in a meeting. It will, someone will sing your praises for the solution that you put in place. So if you don't know that your voice is strong enough, find someone with a strong voice to advocate for you. And then that's a very direct way to do it, not just necessarily a mentorship.
that is a very good point, Marissa, because I think women especially tend to think, I was in that trap for a long time. I thought, well, my work just speaks for itself. And then you lose your champion and then nobody knows all the good work you did. So definitely have to practice advocating and keeping track of your wins.
Well, I think
That's something I still struggle with.
I think we are at time, so I want to thank our incredible panelists. This has been really wonderful, and I hope everybody that is on the call is able to take these insights and can share them with their team or for further learning. So we invite you to continue. We're going to have further series later this year, continuing the conversation, and then at the WE3 conference in the fall. So we'd love to have anybody on the call join us for that. We thank you.